Short-range teleport, nasty bit of travel. Far better than bringing the Tardis here.
Maybe if you told me what you were looking for, I could assist you.
You know, it may come as a surprise, but despite me building you to assist me, I really don't need your help with this.
I see. Like you did not need my help with the teleporting?
It was a slight oversight.
Your original coordinates would have deposited us into the heart of a star?
Yeah, maybe.
Definitely.
G?
Yes, what is wrong?
You know when you said this was Clom?
That is where you wanted to go?
This isn't Clom.
Intruder! Intruder in the corridor!
You said this was Clom! You said it was Clom! Teleport! Teleport!
So there may have been a slight error on my part.
Oh, you don't say. Why didn't you teleport us?
The short-range teleport I designed has a 10-minute recharge.
Fantastic. Now you tell me. What was that?
It would appear the creature we encountered earlier has been joined by two others, and they are attempting to destroy the door to this room. My sensors also tell me that 5 others are amassing in an elevator 18 floors above us. Arrival in 20 seconds. Likelihood of survival...
Yeah. Give me a second, and maybe I can better those odds for both of us.
Come, my brothers, today is a most unexpected hunt.
Keep all luggage and claws inside the capsule at all times. Oh, and happy hunting.
I can't wait.
You know, if I didn't know better, I would say that we found ourselves in some kind of nursery.
I do not see how that helps us escape.
It doesn't, but our reason for travelling may not be lost after all. Here, help me with this door.
Understood. The process is simple.
Great, is it quick too?
Patience is a virtue.
So is keeping my skin attached to my body. I know which one I would choose.
There you are, human. I think when this hunt is done, I might need some alone time.
Yes, relish in the pleasure.
Okay. So you caught me. You win. But before you kill me, don't you want to know why I'm here?
I think instead I have a question for you. Have you not wondered at all why all the floors in our city are grated?
You know what? At the end, yes, I have. What's with that?
It's so the blood can be drained quickly and efficiently. The family's always ready for the hunt.
Success.
There's nowhere to go, human. You may as well start screaming or crying. I don't mind which. What are you doing?
Dad told me plenty about you, and I reckon you won't hurt me while I'm holding this.
Put that down now!
3, 2, 1, teleport recharged.
You know, I think despite your strength, your sense of smell, your terrible talent, okay name for a band, by the way, I think the greatest irony is I managed to get under your skin. Ciao, ciao now. You know what, G? I really don't think this is half bad at all.
Why did you not build me with the ability to vomit? This feels feeling is not subsiding.
You know, the main thing I was having trouble with was how to bust her open. Baseball bat, laser sword, hatchet, none of them would make a dent. But you know what? When all seemed lost, just shutting it in the Tardis door. Cracked it open like an egg.
You know, if I imagine really hard, I can imagine what a self-destruct might feel like.
And once you get past the jelly-like hair, swamp-like complexion, you know, it may be on my top 20 quick and not so easy snacks. Roll up, put down your petty-paloos and your Greg sausage rolls. A new snack has hit the shelves, and all it takes is the bereaved family to get your own.
Where are we off to now? Please tell me we are bound for somewhere a little more interesting than a simple yearning for dessert.
Absolutely. I think a trip to Lucifer's in order.
He said to wait until you hear from him directly. He does not strike me as a creature that will be amused if you turn up unannounced.
I know. I'm just so ready, though, to start the work, to finally start to put the universe back on course.
Take my advice on this one, sir. Be patient. Construction on that scale takes time, even for a god.
Fine. Right, off we go. Where do you fancy? A new planet? Space Camden. Or, back in time, Alan Turing, Alexander the Great. Or, what about H.P. Lovecraft? I hear in 1937 he was hospitalized, and perhaps we can see what we can do about changing those months of suffering. Gee, what did I say about securing the sentient piping in the attic? I'm not going to have to deal with them getting any more fancy ideas and constructing yet another abomination of contemporary art. Melting that down nearly made my eardrums burst with all that screaming.
I did. That was not them.
I built you to be useful. It was a simple task. No, beyond that, it was boring. Yet still...
I did. That was not them.
Then, what was that? G, check the exterior shields and do a ship-wide scan for all forms of life and technologies.
Shields at 100% and has not changed since last we landed. Scan shows no unexpected life forms or technologies.
Then what is that? Stay still. Very still. It feels like being watched. It stopped. It stopped just like, G, with me.
Yes, sir, but where are we?
Off to the menagerie. We need to check every creature in our care. It's just a hunch.
Cell 28, 5 weevils accounted for. Cell 29, half couple secured. Cell 30, Voci, oh my.
No. No. What happened to her?
Calculating. The Voci's chest cavity has been opened with surgical precision. Ribs appear intact, however, the spine has been removed. Lower jaw and brain are absent, and it would appear the spine may have been pulled through the left eye socket. Given the damage to the skull, both kneecaps have been detached and placed either side of the carcass. Conclusion... well, it's dead, isn't it?
It's almost like... But that was just a story! There's no way they could be real, and even if they were, how would they have got into the ship?
All questions I may be able to answer if you give me a little bit more than, no, it can't be, how did it get in, and how is this real?
There were stories I was told as a child, but they were cautionary tales meant to scare children into caring for the oceans of Earth, nothing more.
Most tales are based off some truth, so it is possible that...
The Yearning. They're called the Yearning. They usually travel in pairs, like nuns. One to gain the attention of the target and almost hypnotize them into never breaking eye contact. The other sneaks in with a gaunt expression and childlike curiosity, pulls the intended apart, trying their best to keep them alive until the last possible moment.
You should have heard screaming.
No, not necessarily. Their appearance is meant to inspire some sort of paralysis. They feel the pain, but are unable to call out for help.
What do they look like?
They used to be human, children, but now only move on all fours and have lost all their fat reserves. Their skin stretch over their bones and spine warped into an arch. Their eyes shine a vibrant yellow and bulge out of their skulls. Their hair turned a brown and green, like seaweed, and floats in the air as if they were underwater. Their claws stained a dark brown from dried blood, and are said to cut through flesh and bone like teeth through rackweed.
If they are in the ship, sir, we should perform a shipwide cleanse. Head to the life pod and we can burn them out.
No. There's no need to.
If we don't, there is a good chance you will end up like her.
Nope. They're gone. They never attack again in the same location.
You can't know that for sure.
We're safe. For now. Get in there, wrap the body all together as best you can, and incinerate it. Who'd have thought it? The stories may have been true, after all.
We have a bit of time until the carcass is ash. Would you consider teaching me the story?
It was a long time ago, and I can't recall every detail. But this is what I do remember. A tale often spoken to me by wide-eyed fishermen who lived in a shack by the bay. I would head down there most Saturday mornings just to stare at the open blue.
It's amazing that for many, me included, no matter how bad your day has been and how busy your mind feels, staring and breathing that in changes everything. The sea was crystal clear when Jonathan made his way through the still sheet of black water, only visible from the light of a full strawberry moon. He had not seen land for days and was very much regretting the decision to leave home, a home that till now had been all he had known. The decision was made when Jonathan felt deeply depressed at his own inability to form meaningful and long-lasting relationships with folk in his town. He was not sure when it was, but everyone, including his own family, gave him a wide berth. Just before settling down in his small rowboat for a few hours of sleep, a piercing light passed over him, startling him out of his dozy state and looking frantically towards the origin of the light. Overjoyed with what he then saw, he started to paddle frantically with the one oar he had towards the lighthouse. The craft came to a rest with a deep scraping sound as the wood met stones. The beam from the lighthouse when passing overhead was bright enough to then be able to observe the surroundings. The stones that made up the coast were black as the night sky, and other than the lighthouse itself, there was a dilapidated-looking shed at its base. The lighthouse looked completely abandoned from all the windows below the light. That was until the front door creaked open, revealing a brilliant, warm orange light spiralling out from inside. Cold and tired, Jonathan staggered for the light and blinked several times as his eyes painfully readjusted to the interior. Jonathan was completely taken aback by what he saw. A long, dark wood table, completely covered in vibrant and extravagant food. Foods from all over the world, fresh and piping hot. He wasted no time in shoveling food from the silver platters into his mouth for hours straight, until he was completely stuffed and satisfied to his core, feeling a deep warmth that he had not felt in many years wash over him. However, it was a warmth that did not last. Soon that depression he was all too familiar with returned like an advancing tide, and returned with a vengeance, leaving him all the more desperate to find some human company, but not wanting to leave the safe space of the lighthouse and the food that gave him that temporary relief from his mental anguish. Wiping tears from his eyes, he brushed himself down and looked towards the spiral staircase that presumably led to the light room above. He took each step carefully, remembering the tales of keepers who had slipped and fallen to a gruesome end. While ascending, a thought came over Jonathan. A lighthouse can alert ships to the dangers of the coast and rocks, but much like he had used it, it could also be used to locate a safe mooring spot. possible accommodation and food for the weary traders on the sea. The idea was simple: keep the lighthouse fueled and operational and attract ships in the night, and hopefully make good friends with the passengers. A combination of Jonathan's friendship and the brilliant spread of food downstairs would encourage them to stay with him permanently. The following night his plan was put into action, and to his joy a small sloop came out of the darkness and moored up. From it came a family of 4 children who were travelling with their mother and family, who were aboard a larger craft, towing this one smaller ship. The children had wanted to take the sloop for a quick sail, however had got caught in a strong current and winds and were swept away from the larger ship far quicker than the larger vessel could travel. Fortunately, the oldest among them was a skilled navigator and knew how to get home, but requested they stay a day or 2 so that repairs could be carried out and the younger children could stretch their legs after their long voyage. Jonathan was all too happy to oblige and offered them food from his table, which they eagerly consumed and offered good conversation in return. The children and Jonathan got along like an old family member who only visits during Christmas, regaling many a fascinating tale and often making them howl with laughter at his witty nature. There was plenty in the way of accommodation, and the 4 soon decided to turn in for the night. The following day a repair inspection was carried out on the sloop, and the oldest concluded they could away the very next day with the tide. Jonathan begged them to consider staying a little longer, and although the younger were easily convinced with the offer of more good food in Tales and Jonathan, the older was not so, and insisted this would be their last night at the lighthouse. The night went much the same as the last did, a spread of incredible food and good company from Jonathan. The only difference was all 4 started to feel drowsy much earlier and concluded the night soon after eating. All awoke with splitting headaches, and not upon the soft mattresses they went to sleep on, but on a cold stone floor with their arms up in the air, attached to shackles that in turn were chained to the wall. The oldest started yelling for help, and not too long after, Jonathan appeared at the door with a solemn look on his face. He insisted that he had not wanted things to stay this way, and hoped that his generosity and good nature would encourage them to stay with him at the lighthouse. The young ones, now in tears, did plead with Jonathan. However, the sobs landed on deaf ears, and Jonathan left them in their bonds. Despite this, he had not discouraged from his efforts to form his own forever family, and attempted the same again and again and again. Each time, though, played out exactly the same, and each time, although the children, separated from their families by nothing other than fate, found Jonathan a warm and particularly generous human being, they all insisted sooner or later that they simply must return to their lives elsewhere and leave Jonathan alone once more. And each fateful time, on the last night of their intended stay, he would drug the food and drink, with a concoction of his own making, originally used on himself to aid his sleep, but tenfold the potency, and chained him in the same room with the previous victims of his earlier efforts. Very soon he had 16 children imprisoned, and while bound they all started to notice something. Jonathan, though now sinister and feared in all of their eyes, still put on a very cheerful persona whenever he came to feed them or escort them to the facilities, which made him all the more terrifying. But the last few times they saw him, he seemed tired and drained of happiness. The childlike smile had shrunk away, and he almost seemed absent at times of his own body. The children heard the power of the light kick in, and all huddled and together for comfort as they knew what Jonathan was doing once more. They heard the ship graze the dock, the gangplank come down, the chatter of 2 as they exited the craft, and Jonathan greeted them. However, this time was different. The gentle chatter very quickly turned to screams, and a struggle that could be heard as what sounded like dragging and kicking across the cobblestone leading to the lighthouse. What sounded like a dish and selection of cups were heard crashing to the ground in what was presumably an intense struggle between Jonathan and the 2 children. The screams made their way up to the floor the children were being imprisoned, and the door crashed open to reveal a wide-eyed Jonathan and 2 children in fine dress, both being held by their hair as Jonathan threw them both into the room and swiftly locked the door behind them. During all of this, over the last few weeks, Jonathan carried out his repetitive acts. The question may have been asked as to why the children did not call out to their fellow soon-to-be prisoners to warn them of the impending danger. Apart from fearing the consequences of their intervention, they had observed something else about Jonathan that had assured their continued silence. Jonathan, despite imprisoning them, had still desired their company, and while they were chained and often gagged to prevent their whimpering and potential interruption, Jonathan would continue to regale tales. However, while he talked, he often did something else. He would have captured a seabird or a crustacean of some kind as he talked. He would slowly pull the creature apart. The first couple of times the creature would die near instantly. However, the more he did this, the longer the wretched creature seemed to endure. It was clear to them all that Jonathan had a very underdeveloped mind, still retaining that morbid curiosity that young children have, where they may pour boiling water over an anthill to watch them all scurry away, or push needles through insects while they are still alive just to see how long they struggle. Weeks passed and Jonathan became more and more tired looking. One evening, when a strawberry moon was once again in the sky, Jonathan walked into the room silently with nothing but a chair and a line of rope. He looked each child in the eye before threading the rope over a thick pipe that ran the length of the ceiling and tying it, and then fashioning the other into a noose. He climbed up onto the chair and with little effort, kicking the chair out from under him. His neck, however, did not instantly break, and the children watched in horror as he flailed and turned purple for nearly 10 minutes as he very slowly expired. Left now without their captor, but also without their carer, no longer getting regular food and water, the children began to starve, only kept barely alive by the birds that would fly through the window to pick at the corpse of Jonathan, that the children had learned how to catch. While feeding, the children started adopting the same morbid curiosity that Jonathan had once shown, slowly pulling the birds apart and examining how their innards worked. With little food and no exercise, the children soon became frail, their legs and arms becoming thin, so thin they were able to eventually squeeze free of their bonds. Changed they were. These were not the same children who had once played and laughed with their fellow siblings. Their hair had grown long and matted, their skin had turned a pale grey from lack of sunlight and stretched over their bones like the skin of a drum. They seemed to have grown in stature at an unnatural rate, possibly like plants grow to chase the sunlight, and now stood around 8 feet tall. Their clothes were shredded into rags, and their nails had formed into long talons, almost becoming part of their fingers, and as thick and strong as a rib bone, using these to slice through the flesh of birds like a surgical scalpel. Eventually, the 18 creatures yearned for more than their prison cell, and with their newfound immense strength, burst through the cell door and scurried down the stairs, falling over each other and out into the open. Nighttime once more, and they all took a moment to breathe in their newfound freedom. They gingerly crept towards the water's edge, however recoiled in fear when met with the unfamiliar reflections of themselves in the still tide. Each and every one of them had a moment of deep primal sorrow at what met them in their own reflections, and that in truth was the very last time any of them would resemble the person that weeks and months before had docked at the very same lighthouse. For many days, these creatures, reduced to their most primal instincts, would gradually make their way deeper into the sea, and as they did, their bodies underwent a second change, an ability to filter seawater through their skin and extract the oxygen within, slowly allowing them to breathe underwater. Much like Jonathan before them, they all craved company and would never be seen alone, usually with at least one other in close proximity. In truth, despite being truly horrific to the eye and morbid in their feeding habits, the Yearning were fairly peaceful and kept to themselves, never straying to the mainland. This was until a 2-mast vessel docked at the lighthouse, and the crew, who disembarked with some speed, ransacked the lighthouse and the surrounding area. The Yearning initially hid in fear and almost did not recognise humans as what they once had been. That fear, though, very quickly bled into rage, and all without a word to each other decided these men and women would never leave these shores. They started by choosing one of the 18 to act a decoy, swimming up to the vessel, head barely above the water, and simply stay there, hopefully gaining the attention of the crew as they re-embarked and ready to set sail. Once they had spotted the creature in the water, the rest would climb aboard out of sight, and one by one, without alerting any of the crew members, would incapacitate them with that morbid curiosity once more, slowly pulling them apart, dissecting them, but keeping them alive as long as possible. All the while, an inhuman grin spread across their faces from ear to ear. Noting this as a successful and intriguing game, the Yearning made this their way of playing. Humans continued to visit, and each time met exactly the same fate, and before long the coast was strewn with ships full of bodies in various states of decomposition and disfigurement. Realizing the more they killed, the greater the number of humans arrived, and soon they would be overwhelmed, so the Yearning made the decision to leave their coastal home and head out into sea in hunting parties of 2. Never hunting humans unless triggered by intense human activity, and if so they would attack in the same way, use one of them as a decoy, while the other located their intended and slowly pull them apart. The sea is vast, unknown, unexplored, and unpredictable. People enter it every day and think nothing of it, and yet it is just as dangerous as walking into a lion's den at night. Would you let your child or loved one walk into that? Then why do you do it with the sea? Just because you can't see the danger doesn't mean it's not there. Though a Yearning has never been successfully caught, there have been several sightings that match their description,
and with the sighting, a brutal death shall follow.
Well, that definitely matches the description of what has happened to this poor creature. In conclusion, perhaps, like many stories and folklore, no, all stories and folklore, they are based in a certain amount of truth. Guess we are done here.
No, not quite.
What are you talking about?
All of that is very well, but where did the food come from?
A minor technicality in an otherwise okay at best tale.
No, G, you can't just wave your hand at an incredibly important detail like that. It has to have come from somewhere. Yes, no. Yes.
You're not.
Oh, I am.
You can't be serious.
I surely am. And I know where to start. Major William Hahn, sir. It's us. We're the food providers that set this whole event in motion.
As much as I don't wish any involvement in this, you built me with a curiosity circuit, so I have to ask, how does this concern Mr. Hahn?
Major William Hahn, show some respect. There, see? The St. Augustine Lighthouse.
No, I'm sorry, I do not understand.
That is where the Major is, along with his wife and young offspring.
Right.
The Major for years now has been ailed with tuberculosis.
I see. You wish to end his suffering.
That is exactly right. Consider this my little side hustle while I wait for old Scary Face to be finished with their construction.
And the shotgun?
I've no idea who else might be home. They may, despite my best intentions, take issue with what I'm about to do. Call it my emotional support shotgun. I'm getting pretty anxious here, G. We're about to make history.
Please, don't.
Ah! Major William Hahn, I presume. No. Don't get up, sir. There is no need. May I firstly say thank you very much for your service. Always a pleasure to meet a fellow war veteran. Pity, though, as it is, you must know why I'm here. You're expiring, like milk, albeit very important milk. Your body is failing as you grow weaker by the hour. But you must not worry. I am your only and final doctor, I suppose. The only one that will do you any good. At least that's for sure. By stopping your life where it needs to end. Pity that was my last 2 cartridges. I rather hope... sailing home again across the sea. I am sailing stormy waters to be near you, to be free. I thought that's what you said you needed. That was all rather a lot of noise, wasn't it? I apologise for that. What a choice, eh? To live and work in a lighthouse, which is treacherous work, and decide to have children. If I did not have so much respect for your late father, I would almost call that irresponsible. That's it. Shh, 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 shh. Reegan's here. What's that? Oh, it's a really pretty name. Now, we do have one more problem. I'm all out of fun canisters for my night-night tube. But you know, one wonderful thing about lighthouses. There are always plenty of windows.